Hello, mortals, and welcome to Scary Sibs, and allow us to introduce our cousin, Happy Cuz. I am Scary Sis, and we are
the Scary Sibs.
And I'm Happy Cuz.
No one cares.
You're vermin. You're scum. You are absolute human waste, and you both can burn in hell. Should we,
Yeah, later. Crap, it's later, isn't it?
Hello, mortals, and welcome to Scary Sibs. Do you like our change of venue? I personally don't, because right now we're supposed to be in hell rescuing Happy Cuz, but we aren't we?
No.
And why is that, brother? So that's the portal to hell you managed to get?
Yeah.
Where'd you get it?
Texas Tom's discount occult artifacts.
And now, because somebody decided to go cheap on the portal, we are now phasing aimlessly through various universes, instead of rescuing our cousin and earning our way into heaven.
Hey, we're ghosts, alright? It's not like we have jobs with income or anything.
This whole scheme to get into heaven was your idea anyway. I hope you'd show a little more dedication.
Alright, can we please stop bickering and try to pass the time in a constructive way?
In what way is that?
Well, in very much the same way that each universe we travel to has its own story to tell, so too do the various segments in one of the most diverse subgenres of horror, anthologies.
Yes, anthology films are unique in that they offer a lot of variety in one feature-length film. Breaking the tales up into smaller chunks makes them easier to digest. Of course, as with each subgenre, some entries are better than others. So as we warp around like idiots, we will be counting down the top 10 horror anthology movies.
Number 10, The ABCs of Death. In this very ambitious project, 26 different directors were each given a letter of the alphabet and asked to come up with a short film starting with that letter depicting a distinct way in which someone can die. The result is a collection of wildly different shorts, each offering a different perspective on the subject of death.
The only good thing about this movie is the concept. This movie is absolutely awful. I cannot express to you all how much I didn't enjoy it. Some of the shorts were simply less than desirable horror, and some were unfathomably stupid. It was a nonsensical mess, and it is so unfortunate because I was actually really excited to watch this one given the concept behind it. Some of you may enjoy it, but for us, we wholeheartedly did not one bit.
This was a film that had a fascinating concept, but the execution simply did not deliver. I would love for a different group of directors to take another stab at this premise with better clips. I have heard that the sequel, ABCs of Death 2, is somewhat better, but as for the original film, it massively misses the mark.
Number 9, Patient 7. Dr. Marcus is a renowned psychiatrist who is preparing to write a new book. He selected 6 severe psychological patients to use for his book. His plan is to hear their stories and then try to crack them. The anthology part of this is hearing all 6 stories along with the story of the 2 patients 7 and their connection to the other 6.
This film... Excuse me, do you mind? We're trying to do a show here. Anyway, this film seemed to be very disorganized and lacked any sort of cohesion. The segments don't always have strong narrative flow and don't really end at a logical place where we see how the patients ended up in the asylum. Some of them just kind of stop and leave more questions than answers. Also, this has to be by far one of the worst doctors I've ever seen in film. He claims he wants to help the patients and understand them, but after they tell their story, all he does is insult them, accuse them of lying, and do or say something that makes their alleged mental state worse. Oh, and let's not even get into the twist ending, which makes the entire movie a complete waste of time.
This was another film with an original concept and a lot of potential that unfortunately just doesn't execute well at all.
Number 8. Ghost Stories. Professor Philip Goodman, who hosts a show where he exposes false psychics and paranormal claims, receives a mysterious package one day from one of his heroes, containing 3 cases of paranormal activity that can't be explained. As Goodman interviews the people involved in those cases, he learns that reality isn't always what it seems, and that everything he believed, or didn't believe, is about to be turned on its head.
This movie starts out so strong. The acting is good, the characters are relatable, the story is well developed, the cases are creepy and interesting, and you think, wow, this movie is going to be great. Easily in our top 5 movies. Then you watch the end. Yes, the make or break of so many horror films comes down to the finale. And boy, oh boy, did this one miss. We watched the whole thing play out just for a giant kidding at the end, making the entire movie pointless.
Indeed, much like Patient 7, this film was ultimately undone by trying to throw in a clever twist at the end that completely misfired. However, unlike Patient 7, Ghost Stories actually gave us an enjoyable film up until that point, and therefore receives a slightly higher ranking.
Oh no, it's happening again.
Happy thoughts? Maybe we will end up somewhere nice. Or hell, so we can do our mission.
Huh. Guess you said the magic word. Now that we're in hell, let's go find Happy Cuz.
Oh, this isn't hell. This is Muspelheim, Norse realm of fire, ruled by me, Surtur the Fire Giant.
Drat. I wonder how many other fiery, volcanic universes are out there.
Patience, brother. We'll get there soon. For now, let's push on with our rankings.
Last time I trust Texas Tom with interdimensional travel.
I wouldn't trust that hack to throw a rock through a window, much less warp me to a different dimension. That was your dumb mistake. Number 7, VHS. This movie's framing story is about a group of guys who do a lot of shady things for money. This particular job sends the group into a house to search for a tape. They were not given much information beyond that. The guys split up and search for the tape. They discover not only a lot of tapes, but a seemingly dead older man in the house as well. One of the guys starts watching some of the tapes, and that is what we see as the anthology. All of these movies are creepy, and some err more on the supernatural, like a succubus, a witch, aliens, and an interdimensional killer, while another is about betrayal and murder.
The clips themselves in this film were for the most part strong, with my personal favorite being the first clip involving a group of guys that unknowingly invite a succubus to their motel room after a night on the town. However, all of the others also have their merits and lead to some great horror moments. What undoes the film for me is the framing story. These men aren't sympathetic thieves or misfits. They're straight-up thugs who assault women and break into homes purely for money and fun. This makes them impossible to sympathize with as protagonists. Also, we're given no explanation whatsoever for the mystery behind the VHS tape they're supposed to find, or the dead old man who turns out to be not so dead. Safe to say the framing narrative is easily the weakest part of the film and drags it down considerably.
This movie is good and I enjoy many aspects of it, but there are also a lot of things that could have been done a lot better. I plan to revisit this film and watch the sequels in the future, as I hear that the second movie fixed some of the issues seen in the first.
Number 6, Trick or Treat. This connected anthology takes place in a small town in which multiple creepy events are happening at the same time. A woman who hates Halloween is paid an unexpected visit. A school principal harbors a grisly secret. A young woman's desire for a date to a Halloween party ends in bloodshed. A group of children go in search of a local legend, and a grumpy old man is menaced by a child who takes trick-or-treating too far. All of these stories are connected by the enigmatic Sam, a supernatural, childlike entity that may be the spirit of Halloween itself.
These stories all have creepy angles that are all different enough to keep it interesting, yet they work well together. This has its gory and shocking moments, but none of this film is scary. It also had moments that were too much, like an overuse of nudity in one story, and the shock factor going a bit too over the top to seem natural or realistic.
One great thing about this movie is the fact that it simply oozes Halloween atmosphere and really gets you into the spirit of the holiday. If you want that holiday vibe with a few creepy, enjoyable tales, then give this one a watch. Just don't expect too much in the way of actual horror.
Number 5, Creepshow. This 1982 movie starts and ends with a young boy upset about his father taking his comic book away from him. The comic book, like the movie, is titled Creepshow and features a campy-looking ghoul on the front. We enter the comic to watch 5 stories play out. We see a zombie patriarch come back for some Father's Day cake, a simpleton taken over by an alien plant, a cheating wife and her lover meeting a cruel fate, a mysterious crate inhabited by a yeti, and a bug-infested curse.
This movie, much like the ghoul on the titular comic, is primarily a camp fest. Cheesy acting and effects abound in this movie, but it all comes together for a delightful experience. My favorite segment was the third one about an evil millionaire taking revenge on his cheating wife and her lover, only to find out revenge is a dish best served wet. It had great acting all around, and the finale was legitimately scary. However, each segment was creative, wacky, and scary to varying degrees.
This is a fun, easy watch, and I do recommend it, just not if you're looking for any real scares. Brother, you're a ghost. You don't need to breathe.
Right. I knew that.
No, you didn't.
You didn't! Number 4, The Mortuary Collection. A young woman named Sam interviews for a job at a remote funeral home, where she meets the eccentric and mysterious caretaker, Montgomery Dark. Dark boasts that he's collected the death stories of every person whose funeral he's overseen, and shares a few of those tales with Sam. We're treated to a multitude of terrifying stories of death. A woman whose curiosity over a medicine cabinet spells her doom. A frat boy whose lust for a new student has dangerous consequences. A man whose fatigue over taking care of his infirm wife leads him to make a gruesome decision. And a babysitter desperate to protect a child from a killer. The movie then reveals a few secrets both Sam and Dark are carrying that puts the entire film into a new perspective.
This movie is surprisingly good for being a 2020 Shudder original. The acting was fairly good, the stories were all interesting, and the overall connecting story was pretty creepy and captivating. The finale left a few plot holes, and I wasn't a huge fan of the ending, but as a whole, I was pleasantly surprised by this movie.
This is one of those rare anthologies where the framing story was actually one of the strongest parts, as the secrets each character was hiding left me intrigued. I didn't know where it was going the entire time. What? Okay. I didn't know where it was going the entire time, and the twist near the end, which, unlike the other films on this list, is actually good, leads to a typical horror climax, but flip-flops who the hero and villain is in that scenario. I love when a movie can take old cliches and put a unique spin on them. If you haven't seen this one, give it a watch. It's a rare gem worth your time.
Number 3, All Hallows Eve. A babysitter named Sarah is watching 2 kids on Halloween night. When they unload their candy bags from trick-or-treating, the trio discovers that someone slipped a mysterious videotape into one of their bags. The group decides to watch the tape and discovers 3 strange and disturbing short films, all centering around a very creepy clown. The short films themselves are disturbing, and things keep getting weirder in reality as well. And it seems like this tape may be more dangerous than Sarah originally thought, as the clown seems to creep his way into reality.
For those unaware, this film was actually the origin of the Terrifier series' iconic villain, Art the Clown. And it's easy to see why he caught on so well, as this movie showcases his brutal nature and darkly comedic antics that the Terrifier movies would run with. As for the segments themselves, honestly, with the exception of the last one, they're a bit weak. They just don't really seem to connect together well, don't have cohesive narrative flow, and don't take full advantage of art. However, the final segment and framing story more than make up for that by solidifying Art into a villain that I have no shame in saying I'm terrified of. So, given his title, I guess he does his job.
This movie makes you uncomfortable and uneasy the entire time you're watching it. I know that this movie left a lasting impression on me, and Art the Clown shivers.
Number 2, A Christmas Horror Story. As the town of Bailey Downs prepares to celebrate Christmas, we follow 4 stories featuring people whose Christmas is very much unmerry. 4 students who broke into their school to investigate a series of murders get more than they bargained for. A family visiting an estranged relative must contend with a threat of Krampus. A couple finds something very wrong with their son after returning home from a forest to get a Christmas tree. And Santa Claus himself must fight for survival when his elves are turned into ravenous zombies.
These stories are all well developed and coherent. They are not perfect, but entertaining and scary at times. This movie has a creative and interesting premise, and I really like the way that the different storylines flow together. Each of these stories has a supernatural element infused with a realistic element, so they don't feel too over the top and stupid, but they have a whimsically fictional feel as well.
Back in our 10 noteworthy Christmas horror films video, I said that I didn't care for the twist in one of the stories, that being the Santa one, but I've since come around to appreciate it as it's far easier on second watch to pick up on the subtle hints and details that lead to that end. I also enjoyed the fact that, unlike other anthologies, this movie's stories were somewhat connected. The main girl in the Krampus story is the girlfriend of one of the boys in the school story, while the officer in the school story is the dad in the Changeling story, and so on. This is a perfect movie to put on if you're still in Halloween mode during December and want a good Yuletide scare.
Number 1. The House That Dripped Blood. A detective is seeking answers about a case involving a missing film star. When he asks about the disappearance, the local sheriff has a file to share with him involving the film star's infamous home. The house has been the site of many sinister things, and the locals believe the house is to blame. The sheriff tells us 4 haunting tales about the house, including that of the film star.
This movie is incredibly strong and creative. Each of the 4 stories are expertly done and well acted, containing a few big names of the time, such as Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. Each story contained dark elements and creepy subject matter that kept your attention the whole time. I would say one nitpick I have is that I never really got the central theme of the house is evil that they were trying to push, as each event seemed to be just various tragedies that took place in or around the house, but didn't really seem to be a direct cause of it. But putting that aside, this is an older gem of a film with 4 equally strong horror stories to tell.
Overall, this is a great film that is entertaining and creepy throughout, with the connection of all the individuals living in this house. And those were our picks for the top 10 horror anthology films. Did you agree or disagree with our picks? Please let us know in the comments.
Finally! We made it! Oh, wait, I think we made it. I better make sure we're actually in hell this time and not Muspelheim again.
What are you doing?
Pulling up my radio app. It's only picking up one station.
It's Krampus Radio! This one goes out to the scary Sibs!
Yeah, we're definitely in hell.
Well, now that our little interdimensional journey's over, time to find Happy Cuz.
Yeah, that may take a while.